As sports history fans, we often reminisce about the legends. Willis Reed limping onto the NBA Finals court, Kurt Schilling's bloody sock, Kerry Strug's courageous dismount, and so many more. These moments often define sports history. But what about the countless injuries that did not become legends, or careers that were derailed due to inadequate care? That's where this episode's sponsor comes in. Introducing to you, ILP Sports Consultants, your trusted sports injury partner, available 24/7. Brian Maelli at ILP Sports Consultants has over 20 years of experience in the orthopedic and sports medicine industry, and he has worked with athletes across the gamut, from youth to amateurs, professionals, in almost every sport played in the United States of America, accommodating athletes at every stage of their career. This adaptability ensures that ILP services are perfectly tailored to your skill level, no matter where you are in your athletic journey. With ILP, you are in control. Choose the steps that matter most to you. Diagnosis, treatment plan, recovery, or the whole journey. ILP services are tailored to your unique needs. Rushing for care is a common pitfall, leading to future problems. ILP Sports Consultants helps you make the right decisions, ensuring that you receive timely and safe care. And here's a bonus. Brian hosts the Injured List podcast, sharing insights and athlete stories you won't want to miss. Whether you're a concerned parent or grandparent, or an athlete yourself seeking guidance, ILP Sports Consultants is your beacon of hope in sports injury management. Visit ilpsports.com today. That's the letters ilpsports.com. ILP Sports Consultants, where your well-being is the priority and your recovery is the mission. Choose ILP Sports Consultants for a healthier sports journey, helping you get back in the game the smart way.
Blog Talk Radio.
Tonight we'll go back to seasons past, when 22 men graced the rugged fields of yesterday, fighting for one more first down, one more yard gain, one final score which would bring victory after 60 minutes of battle on the gridiron. Tonight we will explore the world of Gridiron Greats. Welcome to Gridiron Greats, football memorabilia. I'm the Gridiron Greats Publishing and Broadcasting Network, in conjunction with Swick Enterprises. We're live from the Wallingford, Connecticut home of Gridiron Greats Magazine. And I'm Bob Swick, publisher and editor of Gridiron Greats Magazine, and I'll be your host for the show. Gridiron Greats is the only publication in America which focuses upon the history and memorabilia of the North American football game since its inception in 1869. We cover 150 years of football history and memorabilia, and you can find us on the web at GridironGreatsMagazine.com. It's at this time I'd like to introduce my co-host. He is a senior contributing writer to Gridiron Greats Magazine, a football memorabilia historian, specializing in pre-World War II items, in particular red grain, and also Seattle Seahawk items, in particular Steve Largent. He hails from Portland, Oregon, Mr. Joe Squires. Joe, welcome to the show.
Captain, so happy to be here again. I've been having a little bit of football withdrawal the last couple of weeks.
Been a while, Joe. It's been a while. We're in March already, and the football card and memorabilia market never takes a break. It's 24/7, 365 as far as I'm concerned. There's never a day off from it.
You do. Yeah, you gotta really keep your wits about you. There's been times where I've missed a week of looking on stuff and then found out something I've been trying to find for a couple of years came up in that one time. So it's a little addictive, but yeah, I know, you know what I mean. We gotta look at it 24/7, 365. You know, and all kidding aside, I know a lot of people like you and I who basically do look at auctions, eBay, other sites looking for stuff, elusive stuff that we're trying to find. And again, like you say too, it's the one day we don't look at something, it's there. Yeah. And it's gone. Yeah. But anyways, it's good to be back. Good to be talking. Tonight we're going to have a open forum, and we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. And Joe, I'm going to have you lead off with talking about a real tough 1935 National Chickle card that's currently at auction. Lead it off. Oh boy. PWCC, Brett, I believe his last name is pronounced Huggins, or Huggins, or whatever. Doesn't matter. PWCC has one of the hardest cards in the 35 Chickle set up for auction right now. A PSA 8, 1935 Chickle, card number 27, Flavio Bull Tosi. And I remember when I was putting this set together, that card was probably the most elusive card out there. And back then it was a Pop 4 in a PSA 8. This one that just hit is the 5th in a PSA 8. It is by far the least populous Chickle card in the set. Real tough one. And I absolutely love seeing it come up. It's okay looking. Corners look good. Right side's a little on the light side, but hey, these things happen, you know. Let me put you on the spot early in the program. Your theory behind why Bull is such a tough pick as far as in better grade. You know, I've been on the hunt forever for an uncut Chickle sheet. I would. Okay. Somebody the other day asked. Somebody the other day asked, like, what would you pretty much trade anything in your set for? And the answer was a 35 Chickle uncut sheet. That would be the, no matter what it takes, this thing's ending up in my collection. So should I pull out mine and send them to you and see what we can come up with? Oh, Captain, if that was the case. But 36 cards in this set, and the other sets, from this era, the non-sports sets, made by Chickle, were all one sheet. So we imagine these were, four rows of 9. Bull Tosi's number 27, which would put him in the lower left corner. That's my theory. Lower left corner, upper left, any of the 4 corners, get the crap kicked out of them, centering and et cetera, just working their way through the machine. I'm looking right now at the population report. There are Luke Johnsus. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, but we'd have to get John Span on here to pronounce that properly. But has 8 PSA 5s or 5 PSA 8s as well as Bull Tosi, but for some reason I've seen more examples of that. Bull Tosi is just, it's hard in any shape, in any grade. It's just a tough card. So it's amazing. It's amazing to me because, again, I know we talked about this on shows previous to this. In a span of probably 25 years, it was probably a good. Oh, actually, let me take that back. I'm looking at my notes now. My first Chickle I picked up was back in 1988, and I put together part of the set on 3 separate occasions, only to sell it off on 3 separate occasions. And I've never owned one. I've never owned one Tosi card in my in all my pieces that I've been trying to put together. Yeah, I've never found one. And again, my stuff was raw, so I would have taken fair good for any high number.
but I never saw one. I just never saw one. I've seen a couple graded, but I never saw one raw.
Wow. Yeah, it's tough. The only one I ever had in my set was probably about 6 or 7 years ago. I believe it was Legendary at the time, had a grouping of ungraded chickles that were thrown into a box. And as you're looking through the scans, I realized one of them was Toasty, and it was pretty high grade. It was good looking. So I bought the set, and, to know what was in there, you would have had to really read the details and send it off to get graded, and came back a solid PSA 5. I mean, it probably should have been a 6. And I kept it. I mean, it was a really nice looking 5. But yeah, tough set. For an example, there's now 5 Bull Tosies. There's 5, Luke Johnsons. There are 6 Nagurskis. So you talk about the rarity of Nagurski.
Right.
The Tosie is even rarer than that. So I like to tell people with a wink and a smile, he's the Zeke Bratkowski of the 35 chickle set.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously I can see Nagurski, but when you're looking at basically a common for a guy that really didn't have that great of a career and then pay that kind of money in that kind of condition, I go, holy mackerel. I don't know. It's tough to do. It's tough to pull the trigger on something like that. And that was always my issue with the 35 chickles, because I always said to myself, okay, I basically am going to put the high number cards in much lesser condition, and I really didn't have any. The couple high numbers I've had over the years would be lucky if they graded a PSA 2 or 3 at the most, type of thing. So I put that kind of money into that kind of card. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, there are 4 days left on this auction, and it's already just broken the $4,000 mark. I reckon this is an $8,000 to $10,000 card. Depends on who's looking and when.
I would say I'd go out on a limb. I would say it might end up 10+ with the premium on it and everything. I can really see that happening with that card. And actually, what we'll do is when the auction is over, the next time we have our podcast, we'll talk a little bit about it just to see where it ended up, and we'll see how far off or on we were on with it.
And then, as we were talking before the show, PWCC has quite a few 48 Leafs. Looks like it's a set break of pretty high grade 7s and 8s. And then as I was going through, just clicking on them, I was just shaking my head. Just there's a Charlie Trippy, card number 29. That's a PSA 7. That is just so the sides are so trimmed. It's just it makes me smile and it makes me cry all in one fell swoop, because it's just such a bad sting to the hobby to see a card and why can't they get their act together on these trim cards? Why? I mean, what's the problem? I really like to know. What is the problem for them to see that the card is obviously trimmed? It's a big ticket, card, one way or the other, and there's no rhyme or reason as far as what's being graded out there. It just really bothers me. Really bothers me. Ditto, and especially with the Leaf set, as we've talked about before, it's just that it's a set I still collect. I used to collect it in pretty high grade, and then I just saw the ruinization of the set with just, high grade, obvious trimmed cards, and just knew it was diluting my set. So, and I now collect the set in PSA 5, 6, and 7, and just fat bordered beauties. I mean, I should almost change the name of my set to Fat Bordered Beauties, but my favorite card in the set, the Charlie Choo Choo Justice. And I don't know why it's my favorite, but it's just there's a PSA 8 up, but it looks like the left border's trimmed on it, and I refuse to buy something that's trimmed. My favorite card in a great grade, and it's trimmed. Charlie Choo Choo Justice. Wonder where he got that nickname. We need to do a show on that.
So it's to me it's not right. It really isn't, and really, PSA really needs to address it one way or the other. I'm not going to, stand on a soapbox here and lecture anybody, but, for the hobby itself and for people who are trying to buy grade, they're only concerned about grade, not realizing in this case, to me it's a false grade, to say the least,
Yeah, good point. No, it's tough. I was just going through and I was watching, I probably have about 50 cards in this auction coming up that I'm watching. And, one of them I'm interested in, and the other 49 I'm just more morbidly curious. It's too bad. Oh well.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
And then, like you and I were talking about, tis the season. It's auction house season. We've got about 6 auction houses lined up that are in the middle of auctions right now, or lined up, like airplanes taxiing to the runway, ready to take off. And I love this. You hear a lot of people talking about auction overload. No such thing to me. I love seeing the products coming to market, and I absolutely love getting the catalogs and the smell of the fresh ink. And got my REA catalog the other day. Got an email from Love of the Game talking about their up-and-coming auction, and BST sent out an email talking about some items coming up. So, I mean, you've got, the advertisements coming out and the catalogs being mailed. It's like Christmas in March. It's awesome for us football collectors.
Well, there's a lot of different arguments pro and con as far as, the number of auctions at one time, so on and so forth. We both get, and I'm sure most of our listeners get, the email from Auction Report, which gives a list of all the different auctions out. And I try to take some time looking at a few things, here and there. I don't go through every auction because I just don't have the time. But I look at it. I look at it to a certain degree. There is some overload on what's going on. And again, we talk about how many serious collectors are out there. We could argue, there's thousands upon thousands. Well, maybe there really isn't. It's just a small group of individuals who are bidding against one another for some of these, better cards type of thing. For example, the Tozy. How many people are going to go up on that? Maybe a half a dozen? I don't know. I mean, it depends type of situation. So I understand where you're coming from, saying that it's a positive that we're seeing all this different these different auctions here and there. But at the same time, again, I've said this for the past 2 years. Are we on overload? I mean, literally, there's so many different auction houses out there. Good grief! How do you really keep track of it? Type of situation.
I don't know. We touched briefly on this, but what's the name of that site? Auction Report. I really love Auction Report. They're not an advertiser for anybody listening, but it's auctionreport.com, and the different auction houses advertise with them, and on the right hand side are blue hyperlinks to the auction, and they're in chronological order of when they're ending. And it's just, I kind of use Auction. I mean,
right.
They're friends of mine, BST or, Love the Game. I go right to their websites, to save them click fees, through there. But, everybody else,
right.
It's great. I mean, so that's how I keep track of them. But, what I do find myself doing is accidentally going to the same auction and, traipsing through the offerings several times. So I tend to keep a notepad, at my desk at home where I kind of, Mile High is the next one up. It ends, March 21st, which is tomorrow.
Right.
So, I kind of make a list of what I'm bidding on, what I'm interested in there, so I don't forget about it and accidentally go through, and start looking again. But, Mile High's got a couple. They're always good for a couple really high quality items. We've got an SGC 96 Newt Rockney. Several PSA 857 tops cards, including the Unitas and others. So they've got a lot of 70s unopened, 78, 79, which I love. I keep getting enamored with. I love the look of all this unopened. I just don't trust it. It's so hard. I'm so torn seeing all this unopened because I love it. And it brings back a rush of memories, but So many people we've talked to guesstimate about 50% of it's bad.
Exactly, and that's again the problem with the unopened market, which basically, right now you only have one dealer technically who's the expert on unopened items, so you have to take his word on it, yada yada yada. And at the same time, I look at some of the stuff I still have in my collection that's unopened, and try to compare it to what I see if I go to a show or whatever type of thing. And it's tough. It's really tough. And, and when you're seeing rewraps of 81, 82, and 86 because of the rookies in those, the Montana, the Rices, the Marinos, or 84 also, Elway and Marino. There's something, there's something definitely wrong seeing that kind of stuff. That really doesn't make any sense, other than to try to make a profit and pull a fast one type of situation. But
who was I talking to? You see like a $50 card, and you're like, that looks trimmed. Who the hell is out there wasting their time trimming a $50 card?
Right.
And I remember asking a dealer that once, and I'm like, well, why would somebody waste their time, trying to trim and get a card from a 5 to a 6 and 48 leaf, a $50 to $70 card. And he was like, well, if it takes him 10 minutes and he turns a $5 card into a $50 card, it takes him 15 minutes and he makes $40 on it. That's a pretty good hourly rate. And I'm like, all right. Assuming he's got to get graded, et cetera. So.
Yeah, it's a shame because it really doesn't. It hurts the hobby in the long run, but at the same time, again, people or collectors who are desperate to put together an unopened pack run will do anything just to get that one pack, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And it's just not worth it. It's just really not worth it, to say the least. And to me, there's no fun, and this is just me, seeing an unopened pack encapsulated, knowing that you're never going to break it open because you're going to lose all the value of what you paid for it in the first place. So that really doesn't make a lot of sense either. But it is what it is. It's the way the market is, and not much we can do about it other than really be smart as far as looking at something that's unopened or not unopened.
Yeah, totally.
At the same,
Totally. Yeah. But it is sad. It's like, I think we talked about this last week, but, just the, I gave you a 65 Philly pack, for your birthday at the National, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Gosh, we're getting old. And, and you opened it and you turned to me midway through like, this is resealed. The poster was supposed to go like this, and it didn't. And it was GAI encapsulated and graded, and it was just that started to reinforce everything. That's tough.
Yeah. I hear you. It's the same thing. If when you finding a pack from the '60s, it has to be clean, and there's such a risk involved in it. It's not even funny. But again, like we said, it is what it is, and that's it. I still had a lot of good memories opening that pack that night, so it was definitely fun. I remember, and I don't think you were there, but or actually you were there in Baltimore, and I opened a 76 wax pack, and I just got a bunch of commons out of it, and that was it. But I knew that was a good pack because I had bought it and I just put it away for years, and and I knew it was a good pack one way or the other. I look back at it now. I could have put it out at a show and possible painting rookie, but it is what it is, type of thing. And I vaguely remember when I opened up the 76 wax boxes, there weren't a lot of painting rookies in the box. I vaguely remember there was only like 2 or 3, because again, he didn't become red hot until a few years later. And then I started going back into my inventory at the time and said, I think I had maybe 2 or 3. Obviously, one for my son. I had a couple of traders at the time. So, but is what it is. And that's.
But some good. I'll rattle off a couple of the auctions coming up. That we wanted to talk about. Mile High ends tomorrow. Like I said, some good 57 tops in there. Some unopened. Huggins and Scott, which I really look forward to. Huggins and Scott. I've always dug that building or that that auction house. They're usually good for 1 or 2. Just like, holy crap, where the hell did they get that card, kind of thing. I got my, I got my 46 Sears uncut sheet from them. About 5-6 years ago, they sold a 49 Silbers, Y.A. Tittle card, which was the first one I'd seen of it. God doesn't have much coming up. Then ending on the same day, Robert Edward Auctions, the sparkle pony of the industry. REA's got a lot of good stuff. Whenever I see a 65 Topps Joe Namath rookie, I can't help but think of you, Captain. So they've got a PSA 8 Namath rookie coming up. 33 Sports King PSA 8 Jim Thorpe and Red Grange. They're a little off center, a little bit left to right, but still good looking cards. Again, REA's got some really nice, uncut sheets, which, everybody keep their hands off and calling dibs on it. Just saying. And some unopened. I mean, it's a good swath of football, and REA, as you know, really leans baseball. So it's kind of nice to see them get some good quality football in. Brian Dwyer out there pounding the pavement. Knuckle dragging with us football guys. I like it.
Well, I really think eventually what's happening is the as these auction houses evolve even more, mature more, they're still getting a lot more material in than they did before. So, and a lot more, and again, a collector stops collecting. He's trying to figure out where to go, where to get the highest prices for his material. He may break up his collection to 2 to 3 auction houses. You never know, that type of thing. So it's got to be broken. Yeah, I mean, it's got to really be thought out for a collector, especially an advanced collector who has the sheets, who has the the unopened material, who has the a PSA Namath or has a whatever PSA Bowman set type of thing. It's really got to be thought out as far as where they bring that material to and what they realistically think they're going to get for that material at the same time. So. A lot of factors involved. A lot of factors involved if somebody's selling their collection at the same time. And again, I've advised quite a few collectors over the years who are getting ready to sell. Advising them on what area and what they needed to look at and to do with that type of thing. So that's important. It's important to say the least.
Yeah, and it's funny. I guess I never really, whenever I have something I want to sell, I tend to reach out to the people that I know the best. I never really would have considered taking a big collection and breaking it up to several auction houses. I guess I don't have that type of collection anymore, and I like having one throat to choke when it comes to all that stuff.
Right. So it's a big question, and again, with so many different auction houses out there, you really got to think about what you're going to do with it. I'll use one example just to throw it out. Several years ago, a couple of former Packers passed away, and they used a auction house in the greater Green Bay area to sell off their material. And to me, it was just so poor. It wasn't even funny. Because, again, the family doesn't know what to do. The local people are there. They trust the local people. But, if you really didn't search, you would have no idea that the stuff was for sale. And there was a lot of nice stuff that really sold very, very cheaply because, to me, it wasn't advertised correctly and it wasn't going to a sports-type auction house. You're talking about a general auctioneer trying to sell this stuff, and it's very difficult, even though they're local. You know what I mean? So it's an issue to say the least. So
we've seen it before where people do send good material to the wrong auction house. Or I guess you're right. I guess I've never really considered that. Is there a wrong auction house? Because it seems like for me, like a prerequisite would be okay. You got to pop smoke on where the collectors go. You have to have a good mailing list, and for me, almost the minimum playing stakes would be, you got to be on auction report. I mean, and you know, I think you're going to see one of these days a lot of auction houses going away from printed catalogs, you know, or I think
that's because the cost of printing and the mailing of it is becoming you know, a true big expense now, especially with mail costs, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, somebody was telling me that they are going to start offering, like if you have to go onto their website catalog,
right.
And if you opt out of receiving a catalog, you get a $5 discount on shipping in the next auction.
Right.
You know, so you know that's pretty good because I'm to the point where I'm seeing auctions come up on you know, on auction report before I'm getting the catalog. So by the time I get the catalog, I've already checked the auction out. So perhaps if I received catalogs a little earlier, it might be of interest, but I've got a Memory Lane catalog sitting here on my desk unopened. Where's Memory Lane on here? March 16th, April 16th. Yeah, I've already looked at Memory Lane. You know, so I guess I'm going to open this right now. See what we got.
Yeah, it's a question because it is much more expensive to print today, much more expensive to mail, especially. The mailing costs are gotten really high. I know mailing GG, Gridiron Greats magazine, has increased with the last postage jump that we had. And again, you know, everything's a cost. You know, when you're spending a couple $1,000s just on postage, you know, you got to try to make that up along the way. So being in business, we're both in business, we both know, you know, you can only absorb so much in costs, and that's it, without it eating it into your business. So it's problematic. Yeah. I really don't have a problem with online stuff, but I'll take it to the opposite. I know there's many older subscribers to Gridiron Greats magazine who tell me all the time and tell Brenda all the time, we look forward to getting the printed magazine in the mail 4 times a year. We enjoy reading it. We're not, you know, we're computer savvy, but we don't want to, you know, sit in our favorite chair and curl up with the computer to try to read the magazine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a real issue as the hobby grows and the hobby grows older. You know.
Well, and your magazine's a little different, and I wanted to comment with kind of a mea culpa. It costs a lot to ship Gridiron Greats, especially when your co-host didn't update his mailing address, and you have to ship it twice. But I digress, Captain. Yeah, and for our listeners, unfortunately, that happens a little too often, not just with you, but with other people. But I have many nice subscribers who write in advance or call me and just say, hey, I moved. I forgot to tell you. Just please let me know. That's all. That's really all I ask. I've lived in my house for about almost 2 years, coming up on about 2 years, and it's been getting delivered, been getting forwarded, but it hits a spot where the post office stopped forwarding it. Especially when it's media like that. And so I got a text from Bob, kind of hey man, this mine got returned, and I think we were talking about something else, like about frustrations in the hobby, and also like, and this is frustrating. I'm like, gosh, that's great. I'm adding to the frustration of the ambassador of football. I definitely want to be on your good side.
You got it. Unbelievable.
But
moving to a slightly different subject, and something we had talked about in the past. And I always wanted to have a show on TV which is similar to American Pickers, and I would call it, whatever, United States Football Pickers or whatever, something, and I would go around the country and pick for football and football-related items. So as we both know, we share stories with all about our picks and everything.
Yeah.
And I know you know the story coming up now. A few of our listeners know it.
Yeah.
But I want to share it with people who don't know what happened. About a good 2 weeks now ago, Brenda said we were both off on a Friday, and she suggested we go to the shoreline here in Connecticut to our favorite restaurant for a lunch. And we're about a good 40 minutes away from that part of the shoreline, so on and so forth. So we left, and we're driving down to Clinton, Connecticut, Madison, Connecticut, that area. And I said to her, well, let me stop at that Co-op antique shop in Clinton. Let me see if there anything's there. And for some reason, while we're driving down there, we're also talking about my father who passed away quite a few years ago, for whatever reason. So we get to the Clinton Antique Co-op, which is about, I would say, about 40, 45 different dealers. They have the setup with regards to their material. They have like display cases. Some have it in the open, so on and so forth. And it's a pretty big area to walk around and look at stuff. Now, we probably go to that particular co-op 3 times a year. And I usually once a year hit on something, picking something. I found some nice publications there over the years, a few odds and ends, oddball stuff. So we go in there, we're walking around, and I find a dealer who has a bunch of publications there, all sorts of publications. So I end up picking from that dealer a 61 and 1963 Street and Smith football guide. I picked up a, not in great shape, a 1952 True Football Yearbook with Otto Graham on the front cover. And then I picked up something I honestly never saw before, I never even knew existed, was a giant, from Globe Publications, a giant puzzle book on football, fall 1976. It's the second copy in their run. And the front cover shows Joe Namath in Super Bowl III throwing over the heads of the Colts. So I picked it up. I was amazed to see it, and in doing so, I picked those 4 up. And then what I did was to pick up at another booth, and I told you about this. It seems to be a piece of 1963 Topps football sheet that was a piece of printer's scrap. And the top row are 6 Redskin players, and the bottom row are 6 Cleveland Brown players. The numbers on the back of the sheet, and it's badly cut, are going from number 18, Jimmy Ray Smith, to number 23, Bob Gaines. And then on the row on top of it goes from number 163, John Nisbey, to number 168, Claude Crabb of the Redskins. And it's cut pretty bad, to say the least. But I thought it was an interesting piece, and I thought it would be a good conversation piece. And I know down the road somebody like you or somebody else would be interested in it, and I would pass it on to the other person. What's interesting to me is that at the same co-op, maybe, and I didn't have time to look in my notebook, probably 6 or 7 years ago, I bought 3 strips of 1960 Fleer football cards, almost the same type, only there were 7 in each row of these of one sheet, and the other sheets were like 10-card strips. And I was just amazed to see them, because I'm saying, again, this must be printer's scrap, and I don't know where they came from. You know what I mean? So I thought it was an interesting pick. But here's the kicker, although it's not football related. I look at a lot of yearbooks when I go to antique shops or paper shows. I especially look at college yearbooks to see if there are any well-known college players, football players in the book, and I'll pick them up. But in this antique co-op shop, there's one dealer that always has had a lot of yearbooks. And for whatever reason, I'm looking through them, and then I see a 1939 Elm City yearbook. And I said to myself, that's my father's yearbook. He graduated in 1939 from Hull House High School. So sure enough, I pull it out. I know it's not his yearbook because my sister has his yearbook. And I opened it up, and I see my father signed the yearbook for the gentleman who owned it. And I remembered immediately the yearbook because I looked at it when I was a kid for many years. And my father signed his name, for whatever reason, Walter von Swick, which made no sense to me, but I just found that very interesting. So I went up to the counter with all my picks, started talking to the two guys behind the counter, and I explained to them this was my father's yearbook, yada, yada, yada. I showed it to them. I showed them my driver's license for them to know that I am a Swick also. And they couldn't get over it, so then we ended up talking about it when I was saying my father, shortly after he got out of high school, ended up joining the Army for World War II, and then he didn't get home until 1945. So it was a pretty interesting story. And they gave me a huge discount on the yearbook, which was cute. But I said, no, I'll pay the price on it. It's not big. He said, no, we got to give you a discount on it. And it was funny. But I always like going to the unknown, like antique or paper shows more so than card shows, because you really never know what you can find at those different places to buy.
I hate to ask this again, Captain. What did he sign the yearbook as?
Walter von V-O-N Swick. It made no sense to either me or my sister, but I vaguely remember, for whatever reason, he was nicknamed, for some reason, it sticks out of my mind. My sister remembered it too. Some guys used to call him Von Swick for the way he looked. He had a full head of hair. He looked very dapper when he was younger. So that might have been his nickname. I have no idea. I'll never know either. So it was just fascinating to me to see.
And you obviously just found this, so there's no way to figure out what's your dad's real name.
Well, it was Walter Swick, Walter Harry Swick. So I don't know where he got the Von from. So, but it was an interesting read to say the least. But
that's pretty cool that you found. Yeah, that's really cool that you found. A yearbook from your dad, and he'd signed it.
Yep. It just amazes me, to say the least. Amazes me.
It's really
you got
cool.
Any good picking stories over the years?
I know my place in this hobby of ours, Captain, and I've been to many nationals where people, where the idea of a good time for people is to pull a chair up to the dollar card bin and sift through it looking for that diamond in the rough. Right. That is not my place in this hobby. I'm at the bottom of the food chain. There's the people who find the card. There's the people who grade the card. They sell it to a dealer who then sells it to me. I'm happy to admit I'm the consumer who walks into Best Buy and buys a boombox. So my stories of finding gems in the rough at shows are mostly trade secrets. It's I think I've told you like 5-6 years ago, I was collecting the 57 top set in PSA 8, and I was collecting the Zeke Bratkowski card. And a couple years ago, about 5-6 years ago, I ended up buying an uncut sheet of 57 tops from Huggins and Scott, I believe. And in the top left corner, the pole position was Zeke Bratkowski. So I know why his card is so tough. But unless you collected that set, you were a Pittsburgh, fan, you'd never heard of Zeke Bratkowski. So I spent an entire national once just walking up to every football set, every football, booth. Do you have 57 tops, raws? And I would go through and I would find every single Zeke. And then I'd look at it like, is this a 7 or an 8? And I ended up buying about a dozen of them. So back at the bar, on a Friday, and, we're exchanging war stories, and a dealer friend of mine said, what'd you get? I'm like, well, I bought these Zekes. And who the hell's Zeke? Yeah, exactly. And I ended up telling him the story. The next year, he beats me to the National by like 2 days. He's, the dealer opened, at, Tuesday, and then, checking the floor Wednesday. Right. And then Thursday afternoon, I get there, meet him up, and he shows me a handful of Zeke Bradkowskis that he picked out. And I was like, damn it. Okay. No more trade secrets to dealers. And he got a PSA 8 out of one of them, which kind of frustrated me. So my diamond in the rough was usurped by a dealer. So, I mentioned I found a Bolt Hosey, in an auction, but that's not really my station in life. My station is to have a dealer reach out to me and, hey, I just bought this Bolt Hosey at a Legendary. It was raw, and I, cleaned it up a little bit, gave it a bath, got it graded, and here she is. You want to buy it? And I say, hell yeah, and I'm good with that. I have more important things. I'd prefer to play golf with friends or hang out with friends, at a national, or I mean, even just it's relaxing to hang out at the BST booth, just to hang out. I'd rather that than plop myself in front of a, middle-aged, grumpy old man selling cards, who doesn't speak a word to me, and sitting there for 20 minutes sifting through cards that have been sifted through 100 times. And yeah, I don't know. I explore and glance, and if I see something that attracts me, then I pull into the, that I'll, you know what I mean. So,
right.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when I was in with Jeff Payne and the guys at the Valley Ford show, we actually walked at, we're at dealers' booths where there was not even an acknowledgement, and you got 4 guys staring at cards. You think he would, the guy would say, "Can I help you with anything? Do you want to look at anything?" And we're like looking at him, and like we're saying too, we should be the first ones trying to make the move here. Just why don't you guys, be friendly? You probably would sell half your inventory there, type of thing. But I do agree with you. It's tough being a dealer, seeing people just pull the seat up and then they go and spend 2 hours with a $3 sale, that type of situation. But that's the way our hobby is. That's it. Nothing can do about it. So.
Yeah. I
don't
mind that. I don't mind that. I'm certainly not jealous or envious of the person who, sees me in the bar afterwards. They're like, "Hey, check this out." I mean, if it's a Jim Thorpe postcard, I'm going to be pissed. But if it's, "Hey, check this out. I found this Unitas, in a BGS 7, and I'm pretty sure I can crack it, and, I just did it and, got an 8 out of it." My first thought is congratulations. You've got the diligence, you've got the discipline to do that. I do not. So, and I'm good with that. I like looking through, catalogs. And you know what? I've got a good enough relationship with enough people in the hobby that I'm lucky. I get phone calls. I'm top 3 on a phone call list. Hey, I found this at a whatever. I got it graded, or here it is. It's very rare. I want X for it. Do you want it? You're the first person I reached out to. Yes, I will take it for X. Thank you for calling me. And if you're fair, if you don't, go back and forth on a price too much, if you're cool to the person, then generally they'll keep calling you. That's what I like.
And unfortunately, we see a lot of hammering of the pricing. $100 card. Well, I'm only going to give you $30 for it, type of thing. Well, don't be ridiculous in your offers. And I see a lot of people do that, and it's just not a good thing. And hopefully people realize that the person behind the table there is there trying to actually A, sell inventory, and B, has to make a profit to cover all his expenses, which may include transportation, overnight, food, the cost of the cards themselves, so on and so forth. So it's not it's not easy doing it one way or the other. But I still enjoy going to antique shops, antique shows. I still enjoy going to paper shows because I do see, since I do like publications, I do find from time to time interesting publications and or postcards and the like from those types of shows. And I know I've done several times the Paper Mania show here in Hartford, Connecticut, and it's definitely a different crowd that attends those types of shows. For example, the last time I was in Hartford set up, I had a gentleman who basically looked through every Sports Illustrated I brought there, and I asked him, "Are you a collector?" And he says, "I just collect the ads. I don't collect the magazines." So a lot of those magazines, he was basically just going to slice up and take the ads out of them because he wanted the ads, which I find very interesting. But that's a whole big market there too, that individuals do that.
Yeah.
They find the old magazines. There's 7 or 8 ads that they want for their collection, and they slice it up that way, which is very interesting.
Probably like 13 years ago, when I first started getting into the Hall of Fame set, I was really active on the registry. This is back before your eBay ID was blanked out, so people knew who were picking up cards. I just discovered PSA website, so I was, like I said, active on the boards, the message boards there. And there's a guy I'll never forget. There's a guy just kind of, the banter back and forth. You have fun, and eventually it's like, hey, what's your phone number? Give you a call. And you end up talking to a lot of people. And at one point, the top 20 people on the registry, I had the phone numbers for like 16 of them. And would talk to about 8 or 9 of them, actively. I'm still friends with a couple of them. One guy lives in Australia, and last year my family and I went to Australia, and I stayed 4 days at his house. You pick up good friends. And one guy wanted to sell. He reached out to a guy who, to buy him, and the guy lowballed him. So he called me, and it was, some good mid-range cards, but pretty rare. And I remember, the guy, I wanted, 3,000 for him, and he offered me, 2,400 and this and this. And I'm like, I think they're worth 3,000. I'll give you 3,000. Really? Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. They're great cards, man. You just saved me a bunch of time. Yeah, they're worth 3,000 all day long. And by the time the other guy had gotten back to him, like, okay, I'll give you 2,500. He got the satisfaction of saying, never mind. Somebody gave me 3,000. And I got the cards, and I was happy with them. And about 9 months later, the guy came forward, and he goes, hey, I'm going to sell off my other cards. I gave you first crack at them. And I bought those too, and he gave me a deal. This time he gave me a deal. And it's just, I've always subscribed to that. Be cool, be fair, be gracious and be respectful about it. Yeah, like you said, the other guy on the other end of the living. And it's a hobby, but you don't need to buy every card at the lowest and sell it at the highest. Sometimes you got to walk away with that win-win. And I just, every time I do that in the hobby, I just make another friend, and it gives, I have people who, probably about 8-9 times a year just call me with, hey, I picked up this Thorpe thing. You want it? Hell yeah, I want it. What's your price? $2,000. Okay, that might be $100 high, but in the entire scheme of things, $100. The guy reached out to me and gave me first whack at it. So $100. Yeah, absolutely. And it's paid off in time for me.
It's almost like we need a hobby etiquette lesson for some people. I mean, I see it all the time. I've done shows for 30-plus years now, almost 40 years. And I've seen it all the time. And I think when the explosion of football cards hit from 89 up, it was like, it was a free-for-all. And I can't tell you how many times I had dealers come up to me or dealers call me, hey, listen, I'll trade you some 89 Pro set for your 66 Phillies. And I would say, why would I want to do something like that? I mean, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. And it was always, well, this is hot, you'll make your money on it. I said, I'm not going to make any money on it, type of thing.
Yeah.
So it was not a good situation, I want to say, from roughly 89 to 92 in the respect that I think a lot of material was mishandled, meaning that it was very underappreciated dollar-wise, and the newer stuff was overappreciated dollar-wise, only to see it today being worth, $3-4 at a show for, Pro set, or say 89 Topps Black, which is literally worthless type of situation.
Yeah.
So it impacts the hobby in the long run because, you know, somebody who may be starting a collection at that time will say to themselves, well, this is a screwed up hobby. Everybody's just trying to take advantage of everything. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, you know? So it's kind of settled down, in my opinion. But again, it's a valuable lesson for everybody to really understand. You know, there is a lot of time and money invested. So, you know, be respectful of what you offer type of situation.
Yeah.
And that's important, to say the least.
No, and I can remember once looking for a card and just traipsing through the internet and finding this obscure guy in Pennsylvania, and I can't remember his name, but really, really nice guy. And I bump into him at the National all the time. We had him as a guest probably about 6 years ago, Bob, and just found his website, called him. Yeah, you got these 5 ticket stubs I want. Yeah, they're still available. Okay, you have all 5 of them listed for, you know, $600 total. You know, what can you do? Yeah, it's $550 some. That sounds very fair. That's what I was thinking. Perfect.
Yeah.
How about I send you a check to save on fees? Yeah, that'd be great. I'll give you free shipping if you send me a check. That sounds very fair. Thank you. I appreciate that. Check went in the mail, and he got the check, and he's like, thanks, received it. I'll ship it off. It's just that kind of mutual respect. I don't know. I'm big on that stuff, and I find that the world repays you in kind, you know, if you do that. And, to this day, that guy still reaches out to me, and, about once a year now, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I believe it. All right, we're almost out of time. We got about 4 minutes left. We're going to go into our 2-minute warning and wrap up. Just one quick mention: our spring issue of Gridiron Greats magazine will be out the week of April 11th, and we got a couple interesting articles coming in, especially on the old Denver Mile High Stadium. And we're also going to be looking at Martin Jacobs has a phenomenal, interesting article on paper, football paper. So I'll leave it like that. And it's a very, very, very interesting article, to say the least. We've got a couple other articles in, which I'm sure everybody would be interested in. If you are not a subscriber to Gridiron Greats magazine, but you are a listener, go to our website, gridirongreatsmagazine.com, and become a subscriber. 4 issues, $29.95, long shelf life for your magazine as a reference tool, and also as a very, very informational piece for the football hobby.
What is the cutoff for sending you articles that get into the next Gridiron there, Captain?
As soon as possible. But I'm always
working on a couple articles, and I'm always behind the 8 ball, aren't I?
We'll talk about it later. Don't worry about it now. But that's coming up. And again, we also have online on our website. If you don't have any issues of Gridiron Greats magazine, you can buy our entire back run from issue 23 to our current issue at the scheduled price there. If you're interested, contact me on that. I'll be more than happy to help you out on it. But that's what's coming up as far as our next issue of the magazine is concerned. After that, obviously, it's going to be the national issue, and we got a few surprises coming into that upcoming. Well, Joe, we're almost out of time, and we had a good discussion tonight on auctions, picking, the hobby in general, and I just never get tired of talking about football cards and football memorabilia and football history. I just think it's one of the neatest things to talk about. I just thoroughly enjoy it. And I also want to briefly mention the Alliance of American Football is playing, and I enjoy watching it when I get a chance, when I can pick it up over here. It's a pretty interesting league. It should be a good minor league for the NFL if that's what they're going to use it for. Hopefully it'll be around for a few years. I know they're having some financial issues, but hopefully they can iron it out. And I'll tell you, if I was close to one of those stadiums and they were playing, I'd definitely be a season ticket holder, and I'd be there for every game enjoying it, to say the least. I got all the teams following my Twitter feed, Bob at Gridiron Greats magazine. And it's pretty interesting to read their stuff and to see what they're talking about. But it's a good league. I enjoy it. I enjoy watching it.
I'll stay mum on that. I don't think I've watched a game.
That's all right.
So
it was funny. Yeah. The opening weekend, they were on the local CBS channel here in Connecticut, and it was fascinating to watch. I mean, it just brought back so many memories of me years ago watching the World Football League when I could on a grainy black and white TV out of New York, with me missing half the game because the connection failed. And then fast forward to the USFL, 83, 84, and 85. I loved watching the USFL. I just thought it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed that league, to say the least. We're almost out of time. We're going to be back hopefully next week with another show with a guest, and we'll be talking about that later. Joe, thanks for being on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Captain. Always a pleasure to be on.
All right. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Ba, 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 ba.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
Each week, the official Football Learning Academy podcast will take you deep into the history of pro football through interviews with players, coaches, or administrators in the NFL, as well as interviews with Pro Football Hall of Fame selectors, authors, and historians. You'll learn how the game evolved and important moments that shaped the sport into what it is today. And don't miss the Pro Football History Nugget of the Week. Listen to the official Football Learning Academy podcast on the Sports History Network.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcasts. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcasts. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.